of the Metropolitan Council. I'm the committee's chair, Robert Lilligren. It's Monday, March 7th, 2022. And before calling the meeting to order, just a few things. COVID-19 is continuing to cause us to alter our usual procedures. The Metropolitan Council chair has determined it's not practical or prudent to conduct an in-person committee meeting in response to the pandemic, and accordingly will participate by electronic means or by phone for this Community Development Committee meeting. It's being conducted by WebEx. It's being recorded. Members of the public will be able to monitor this meeting by going to the agenda at the Metropolitan Council website to view the live stream of this meeting. The video is embedded on the website. Just to remind committee members, since this is a virtual meeting, we'll do a roll call for each business item. And please use the WebEx written chat function only to address technical difficulties. We need to make sure that we communicate with each other through speaking to ensure that people listening to the recording can hear all the comments shared through the meeting. So if there are no questions, I will call this meeting to order and ask Michelle to please take attendance to establish a quorum. Michelle.
Thank you, Chair Lilligren. And as you mentioned, we received advance notice that Councilmember Lee will not be able to participate today. So I will start with Councilmember Chambliss.
Here.
Cummings.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Lilligren.
Here.
Lindstrom.
Here.
Musset.
Here.
Bento.
Here.
Wolf. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. That is a quorum. The first item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. It's posted at the Met Council website. If there are no objections or changes, we can move on to our business. Any proposed changes or objections to the agenda? Okay. Hearing none, we will move on to the next item, which is approval of the minutes. It's the minutes from the February 22nd regular Community Development Committee meeting. And is there a motion, committee members?
So moved. Lindstrom.
Thank you, council member. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Cummings seconds.
Thank you, council member. Any discussions, additions, or corrections to the minutes? I'm not sure who's on the phone, the 651 number that ends in 63. I'm not sure who that is, but if you could mute yourself, please. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion to approve the minutes? Seeing none, Michelle, please call the roll on the motion.
Yes, Chair Lilligren. Chambliss.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Lilligren.
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Musset.
Aye.
Bento.
Aye.
Wolf.
What are we voting on? Sorry, I just signed in.
It's the minutes.
Hey, welcome.
Aye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councilmember. Welcome. Good timing. Great. That motion carries, and we'll move on to our non-consent business items. We have 4 of them this evening for consideration. The first is business item 2022-53. It's the Point Douglas Regional Trail Master Plan from the City of St. Paul, and Tracy Kinney is here to present. Welcome, Ms. Kinney.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Well, good afternoon, council members. Hi, my name is Tracy Kinney, and I'm a senior planner in the Parks Unit of Community Development. Today, I will be presenting the Point Douglas Regional Trail Master Plan on behalf of the City of St. Paul. Next slide, please. The purpose of this master plan is to plan the Point Douglas, Washington County Regional Trail Search Corridor and rename it to the Point Douglas Regional Trail. This new 4-mile trail will connect the east side of St. Paul and Battle Creek Indian Mounds Regional Park to downtown St. Paul and to the city of Newport in Washington County. The trail parallels Highway 61 between Burns Avenue and Bailey Road. These maps are figures 1 through 3 in your business item. Next slide, please. St. Paul's community and partner engagement methods reach the broad public, specific communities, as well as agency partners. The advice heard is reflected in the master plan, including the need for snow removal, improved intersections, lighting, preference on the trail location, and improved wayfinding. And the agency partners engaged through this master plan value the need to improve this existing corridor. Next slide, please. The master plan's equity analysis. For the master plan's equity analysis, St. Paul included 2 separate engagements. The first is the Horn of Africa Somali community, and the second is the Harding High School youth. These communities are reflective of the highest housing densities in District 1, which also corresponds to the highest percentages of children and people of color. Somali residents and business owners were engaged through one-on-one conversations, and Harding High School students were engaged through a survey. The advice heard from both communities was the need for awareness of the trail. The students also voiced the need for trailhead amenities. The result of the engagement is a future trail that will have meaningful wayfinding with meaningful languages and amenities for visitors. St. Paul found that engaging these specific communities built relationships with them and built an awareness of the trail as a shared amenity, paving the way for future conversations. Next slide, please. The total cost to complete the trail is $9.8 million. This includes the long-term improvements important to improving the safety of this trail. Acquisitions will cost $278,000 and annual maintenance will cost $37,000. Next slide, please. The rationale for the proposed action is that the Point Douglas Regional Trail Master Plan is consistent with the requirements of the 2040 Regional Parks Policy Plan, particularly Planning Strategy 1 and other council policies and systems, particularly Thrive 2040. Next slide, please. So the action before you today is that the Metropolitan Council approve the Point Douglas Regional Trail Master Plan, and 2, to require St. Paul, prior to initiating any new development of the Regional Trail Corridor, to send preliminary plans to the Metropolitan Council's Environmental Services Interceptor Engineering Assistant Manager. Next slide, please. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Kinney, for your report and for your work on this. Committee members, any questions on that report from Ms. Kinney? Councilmember Vento.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the council rep on the Metropolitan Parks and Open Space Commission, I just want to do a shout out to the city of St. Paul and to Washington County, but also to Tracy and all of the staff from all of the entities involved in this plan. It's an excellent plan. It's one that people have been working very hard on. This particular area is primarily, I think it's almost all in Councilmember Lee's district, but it's a beautiful urban suburban stretch that goes along Highway 61. It's not far from where I live, and it's close to, as Tracy explained, to Battle Creek Park, but also to a beautiful, fairly recent addition to the Maplewood Parks and Open Space, Fish Creek. So when we get to pleasant weather, I'd encourage you to either bring your hiking shoes or your bikes, and once this trail is all done, just enjoy every bit of it. It's excellent. So kudos. The one other thing I want to say is that, and I could wait until after the next report, but I'll do it now and then keep my mouth shut. But I want to really do a shout out to MPOS members, their chair, Tony Yaruso, and to each of the members, as well as to to Emmett and all of the staff, Sandy Dingle, all of the staff who support MPOSC. Their meetings are very thorough. I am just awestruck by the depth of understanding that the folks have of the park system, of what's being planned, and what lays out there in the future. They really do their homework prior to the meetings. They have robust discussions, and I'm really impressed with them. So I wanted to have that be a formal part of the record too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. I appreciate your comments and second them in support of the MPOSC work and staff work too. And I'm not seeing any other. Councilmember Lindstrom.
Well, I'll just second everything that Councilmember Vento said, but also add on that I was down there. I've spent a fair amount of time in that area, and I was down there not too long ago when I was down by the creek, and I heard a big splash, and it was a beaver with its buddy beaver that didn't like me being down there at the same time as them. And there's a beaver dam that's right down there, and it's just a little hidden treasure. And there's tons of environmental services infrastructure that's in that neck of the woods as well, along with Highway 61. So there's kind of a lot going on down there. So the best that we can do to protect that natural resource is fantastic. We'll all be better off.
Thank you, Councilmember, for your comments. And I will note that Emmett Mullen put into some thanks to Councilmember Vento in the chat and reiterates her endorsement of the Fish Creek addition to Battle Creek. It's a treasure, he says, and critical for protecting the Mississippi River critical area. Further discussion on that report, Councilmember Muse.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to echo what my colleagues already said, but I just want to give a special shout out to the creative, multicultural outreach to underserved communities who tend to not use that much. So really, that would make us creative outreach help those communities who will never, access those sources to know and really to take that extra mile. I just want to appreciate the team and the work, and a great job, team.
Thank you, Councilmember Muse. Any further discussion, questions, comments on that staff report? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve the staff recommendation approving the Point Douglas Regional Trail Master Plan and making some requirements of the applicant agency St. Paul. Is there a motion?
Vento moves approval.
Thank you.
Wolf seconds.
Thank you, council members. Any discussion on that motion? Discussion. Hearing none, Michelle, please call the roll on the motion.
Mr. Lilligren. Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Musse,
Aye.
Bento,
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you.
Right, that motion carries. Thank you, Michelle. And we're on to our next business item, which is 2022-54. It's the West Mississippi River Regional Trail Park Acquisition Opportunity Fund from Three Rivers Park District. The request comes, and I think it's Chi Yang and Jessica Lee that are here to present, correct?
Correct.
Great, welcome.
Thank you. Hopefully everyone's able to hear me.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hello, Chair and Council members. My name is Chi Ying, and I'm a planner at the Council. Along with me today is my colleague, Jessica Lee, a senior planner who co-developed the business item and the presentation. Today, I'll be presenting the West Mississippi River Regional Trail Park Acquisition Opportunity Fund for the Hater property on behalf of Three Rivers Park District. Next slide, please. As indicated on the maps, the West Mississippi River Regional Trail is located in the northwest region of the metropolitan area along the northeast border of Hennepin County alongside the Mississippi River. The regional trail travels from Dayton through Chaplin, Brooklyn Park, and Brooklyn Center. Next slide, please. The regional trail is split into 4 different segments. Segment C and D is about 10 miles and is open to the public. Segments A and B, once built, will add another 10 miles to the regional trail. The Hater property is part of segment A in Dayton. Next slide, please. Acquiring this property and others like it will allow the regional trail to be built away from the busy road and closer to the river. About 142 feet of the property is the Mississippi River shoreline. The seller has agreed to the appraised value of $260,000. The total acquisition cost is $350,000. The grant amount of $262,500 will be funded with Parks and Trails Legacy Fund and Council match. Three Rivers will provide the 25% local match. Next slide, please. Our rationale for our recommendation is that this acquisition is consistent with the 2040 Regional Parks Policy Plan, the Parks and Trails Legacy Fund, appropriation requirements, the West Mississippi River Regional Trail Master Plan, and Three Rivers Park District is within its $1.7 million per fiscal year limit for the Parks and Trails Legacy Park Acquisition Opportunity Fund. Next slide, please. Our recommendation is that the Metropolitan Council to 1, approve a grant up to $262,000 or $262,500 to Three Rivers Park District to acquire the 1.22 acre Hater property located at 17700 Dayton River Road in the city of Dayton for the West Mississippi River Regional Trail, and 2, to authorize the Community Development Director to execute the grant agreement and restrictive covenant on behalf of the Council. Additionally, the Metropolitan Parks and Open Space Commission unanimously approved the proposal actions last Thursday, March 3rd. With that, it concludes the presentation. Jessica and I can take any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jing. Ms. Lee, thanks for being here. Thanks for your work on this and for your presentation. Any questions for staff on that report? Councilmember Vento.
Well, I shouldn't make promises that I can't keep, because I said I wasn't going to talk on this one, but I'm going to. I want to do a shout out to Chi and to Jessica and Tracy. All the whole team. This is awesome. And the point I want to make is New Orleans and Itasca, the Stone Arch Bridge, and then a few spots in between, the Arch in St. Louis, get a lot of attention. But some of the most beautiful parts of the Mississippi are the parts that aren't, there isn't a lot of signage. They're just magical spots. And I can't wait to see this part of the Mississippi. I've had the opportunity of canoeing on that upper part of the Mississippi, but I have not seen this area, and I can't wait. So Chi, to you and to the Three Rivers Park staff and everyone, thank you very much. This looks just heavenly. Thanks.
You're here. Thanks, Councilmember. Further discussion, Councilmember Chambliss.
Yes, I too am very excited about this acquisition and extension of the trail. I use West Mississippi River Regional Trail on a regular basis, and the most I walk is about 7 miles. So adding that 10 miles means that I'll have to hop on my bike to go the rest of the way. But it's just a great addition to this trail. So I'm looking forward to it on behalf of the community.
Thank you, Councilmember Chambliss. Councilmember Chambliss, did you want to move approval of this item?
I certainly will. I'll move approval for business item 2022-54.
Thank you. And is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Lindstrom. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Hearing none, Michelle, please call the roll on the motion.
Yes, Chair Lilligren. Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Musset,
Aye.
Vento,
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. That motion is adopted. And thanks again to staff and to the Three Rivers Park District for bringing this forward. Our next business item is 2022-66. It's the Metro HRA Administrative Plan Revision Mobility Demonstration Program Waiting List Preference. And I believe Margaret Perez and Stephanie Paulson are here to present. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Lilligren. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thanks, Stephanie.
Good afternoon, council members. I am here today in partnership with my colleague, Margaret Perez. This is her first time at the CDC, so I'd like to introduce her. She joined us this summer to oversee and support our outreach team. She's our manager of outreach and special initiatives. One of her top items will be the mobility demonstration program, and so I'll start us off today, and then she will get into the nuts and bolts of this item.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg, next slide, please. So we are here today to talk to you about the mobility demonstration program waiting list preference. So just to set up this conversation, I just want to remind you of what normal process is. So normally, when we look at our administrative plan, Congress passes laws, and then HUD develops the regulations around those laws. And then the HRA is charged with adopting policies that kind of correspond with those regulations, right? So when you look through our administrative plan, you'll see things that are guided by regulation, and then you'll see portions of our administrative plan that say PHA policy, and that's where we have some discretion. The revisions that we're making today are you generally see these as a part of the admin plan process, and I come visit you in the summer every year to walk through that step. But we are here today outside of that process because we are required to do some updates as a selected site with the mobility demonstration program. And like I said, my colleague Margaret is going to kind of move into those details. So I will pass off to Margaret. Next slide, please, Greg.
Yeah, Ms. Perez, welcome to the committee. Thank you for your
Thank
work.
you so much. Thanks for having me here, Chair Lilligren, and thanks to the rest of the council members for welcoming me here today. Before we get into the proposed wait list preference language we're asking you to adopt today, I just want to provide you with a little refresher on the mobility demonstration program. You may recall that the mobility program expands on the findings of past research that shows that children and adults have lifelong benefits when they move to areas of high opportunity. HUD defines these areas as those with high performing schools, low rates of poverty, and low rates of crime, among other things. So families enrolled in our demonstration program will be randomized into one of three groups. Those receiving a high number of services and supports, that's called CMRS, you'll hear me saying that, which stands for Comprehensive Mobility Related Services. And then there will be a group that receives less or a selected number of services, and those are called SMRS, or Selected Mobility Related Services. And then, like any good study, there will be a control group, and they will not receive any services and supports above and beyond what we would normally offer our clients. This program also expands the outreach team's capacity to reach more landlords in new areas where we haven't traditionally focused our outreach efforts. So some examples of questions that the study hopes to answer are, do services increase the likelihood and success of leasing up in high opportunity areas? Which services are which services are most effective in facilitating moves to opportunity areas? What challenges do landlords report when working with our clients? And which incentives are most effective to encourage and retain landlords in opportunity areas? So we're currently gearing up to enter into the pilot phase of the study, aiming for a June 1st launch date for the pilot phase of the study. We've been working very closely with our partners at MPHA to work out the kinks of a shared program such as this, and we are currently working on our site recruitment and enrollment plan, and we'll soon begin the hiring process for the mobility coaches and leasing coordinators. So we hope to have a more kind of programmatic, detailed update on the pilot sometime in Q3. So we're getting really close. And next slide, please. Thank you. So as I noted, the Mobility Demonstration Program will assist families with children in gaining better access to low poverty neighborhoods with high performing schools and other strong community resources. The program will offer mobility related supports to a selected group of housing choice voucher holders to determine what services are most effective in helping families move and achieve success. The program will include a rigorous evaluation and research component, which requires us to randomize families into those 3 groups I mentioned on the previous slide. And the CMRS group and the SMRS groups are what's referred to as the treatment groups on this slide. And then, of course, there's the control group here. So the program will be open to families with children under age 18 already participating in the Housing Choice Voucher Program and that are interested in moving. The demonstration will also be open to families with children ages 13 and under who are new admissions and are selected off of the PHA waiting list. A waiting list preference will be applied to a limited number of families each year in accordance with the enrollment schedule seen here. So you can see here that between Metro HRA and MPHA, we will be expected to enroll a total of 111 new admissions from our waitlist over the life of the study. Next slide, please. So this is the actual language that we're asking you to adopt today. In order to target waitlist selections to fit the study criteria for the mobility demonstration program, the Metro HRA is required to establish a waiting list preference for mobility demonstration vouchers and the number of regular turnover vouchers required for the demonstration. The following revision to the waitlist preferences in the Metro HRA's administrative plan is guided by HUD's required language and is a requirement for us to enter into the pilot phase of the demonstration. On the screen here is the proposed language to adopt in our administrative plan. The main components here are giving preference to families with at least 1 child age 13 or under that live in census tracts with a family poverty rate of 30% or higher. And then if there are not enough families that meet that criteria, the proposed language would then allow us to select households with children 17 or under. It only allows us to make this preference up to the enrollment targets for any given year. Our proposed action today is that you approve the Metro HRA administrative plan revision to the waiting list preferences as required by the Housing Choice Voucher Mobility Demonstration Program. Next slide, please. Oh my goodness, and I am just like receiving the most intense like afternoon sunlight, so I look like an abstract painting. With that, I'll take your questions or comments.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. President. Maybe I'll start with a question and I'll turn to the committee members to see their questions. On the second to the last slide, the local preferences slide 5, there's whatever, the 4 points. And I'm trying to figure out which of these points are language that was mandated through HUD and which are sort of where we have sort of policy flexibility. And I'm guessing the first point is from HUD, and the next 3 are sort of our touch to the demonstration. Is that accurate?
Thanks, Chair Lilligren. It looks like so all of this is recommended language. I would say it's almost the opposite. So the first bullet point was background that we provided. And then the bottom 3, specifically the second and the third bullet points are the like kind of cut and paste language.
Okay.
From HUD that we have. It's the 1 child age 13 or under that lives in census tracts with a family poverty rate of 30% or higher. That's HUD.
Okay.
And then the backup option of the 17 and under.
Well, good to know. Thanks very much. Committee members, questions, comments on this report? Councilmember Chambliss.
Yeah, it's really great to see that this proposed mobility demonstration program is finally coming near with a date of June 1st. That's very close. So this is a very exciting time. I know we'll learn a lot from the activities of this program. So that's great for not just this program, but other voucher programs that we have. I do have a question with regard to the identification of the areas that have, the opportunity, the good schools, and just wondering what are we doing in terms of providing, what does strong community resources look like? I know what it's like to move into kind of a new area, and there might be some culture shocks, not only for the families, but for the community that they're moving into. So what are we doing to ensure that there's strong community resources, and how do we plan to reduce barriers such as transportation issues?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's various components of the study itself. The CRMRS that I mentioned is really this like wide bucket of supports, and part of that allows for successful lease up. So it's things like paying application fees and security deposits. But then another portion of that is actually our like mobility coaches, which are actually some of the new staff that are going to be coming on board, and they kind of serve as case managers um, for our for our mobility clients, so those enrolled in this study, and they'll be providing a lot of kind of like navigation support, like helping kids get enrolled in schools, get them enrolled in activities, referring them out to other community resources that they might qualify for. So there's a kind of behind the scenes partnership building effort that's going to take place, now throughout the life of the study, in terms of our staff making relationships or strengthening relationships in those opportunity areas. As well as ongoing support for mobility coaches. And then there are additional kind of service dollars attached to the vouchers that would allow them to also kind of pay for some of the basic things needed to acclimate to a new community. But I will be returning in Q3 to like give you a lot more of a kind of in the weeds kind of programmatic overview. But yeah, happy to answer. We're still working, like exactly what it looks like is still getting worked out, because we're kind of just getting into actually being able to visualize what it's going to look like.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments on that report? Councilmember Lindstrom.
Is the SMRS then just all of those things except at a little bit less level?
Yeah, and that's actually the SMRS. So if you see back on slide 4, where that asterisk is where is when SMRS is going to actually kick in. And so we're really, really, really focused on just the CMRS right now. And even us, like on the ground staff, don't have a strong idea of exactly what SMRS is going to look like. It could mean existing services at a lower level of support. It could also mean a selected number of services. So like maybe they're just receiving security deposit assistance and application fees and not the intensive coaching. And then what the study is doing is evaluating, were they still successful at leasing up in an opportunity area, or did they end up kind of defaulting to areas where they would already be leasing up?
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember. Further questions or comments on the report? Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Perez has proposed that the Metropolitan Council approve the Metro HRA Administrative Plan revision to the waiting list preferences as described in the proposed revision section within the business item. Council committee members, is there a motion to approve, please? Is there a motion?
Approval.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there a second?
Coming seconds.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Just before I ask Michelle to call the roll, I just want to say how excited I am about this demonstration and to see what happens. And one of my concerns, having been the executive at a project-based Section 8 HUD housing development, just how people can sort of get trapped into that kind of housing generationally. And so it's really going to be interesting to see what these different levels of support can do to people's mobility and achievement. So very exciting. With that, Michelle, please call the roll on the motion to approve.
Yes, Chair Lilligren. Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Musse,
Aye.
Bento,
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. That motion carries. And we'll move on to our final business item for today. It's item 2022-68. It's the 2022 Community Development Committee Work Plan, and Director Barajas will present. Welcome, Lisa.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, council members. It's good to be in front of you this afternoon, and I see that I also have some very sunny sunshine on me, and I hope that's a good sign. I don't have a formal presentation for you today because we've talked to you several times now about our work plan, and so we're just bringing back that sort of final work plan, if you will, with the understanding that it's subject to modification as needed or directed by this committee. The differences that you'll see as compared to the last time, I believe Terry and Angela presented the proposed work plan to are really just minor. We made some small edits, mostly in titles for clarity, and then also added the figure at the end of the, starting on page 4 of the staff report that is posted online that shows the illustrative timeline for the year. You'll see that we have both scheduled dates that are in a firmer color, so a dark yellow or a dark green for information or for action, and then as we've done in past years. And then we also have some ongoing work that you'll see on a regular basis that's not specific to any one project, but things like comprehensive plan updates and plan amendments, master plan amendments that you'll see on a regular basis. Those are in sort of that lighter green color. And then the lighter yellow color represents a tentative schedule for a number of projects that you may see a couple of times updates to in front of this committee, including things like our regional parks historical cultural study, which may be a couple times throughout the year, and aren't quite scoped to the point where we can get them to a solid date just yet. And you'll also know then on the initiatives towards the bottom and then following onto the final page of the report, a similar, some generalized schedule. In the third quarter, we may bring you an update on a particular item. And as we get through further into the year, our staff get more firmed up, obviously, in our scheduling, and we'll be getting those shaped up for you. So that is what I have for you today. Very short item. I'm certainly happy to take any questions. I'm really excited for the work that we have underway this year and the initiatives that we have, both new initiatives with some of the efforts that like Margaret just talked to you about, in addition to some of the strategies related to the housing priority that is within your adopted or your strategic plan, and some work underway that we're getting underway with our 2050 regional development guide. So happy to stand for any questions for you today. I'll keep it short and sweet otherwise.
Yeah, thank you, Director Barajas, and to your whole team for the work on this. Thanks for engaging us in the discussion the way you have. I love the graphic. I think it's very useful and transparent. And I will say, just looking at this work plan, you do a lot. We do a lot. And so your work and your team's work is much appreciated.
Thank you.
Any questions for thank you. For Director Barajas on the 2022 CDC Community Development Work Plan. Any
Mr.
questions?
Chair, I do have a proposed action for you in the staff report to adopt the work plan as described in the body of this report, with the understanding that it is subject to modification as needed or as directed by the committee.
Great, thank you, Director Barajas. That is the recommendation that's come forward. Is there a motion to approve?
Johnson moves.
Thank you.
Second.
Is there a second? All right, thanks, Councilmember Lindstrom. And any discussion on the motion? And Director Barajas, and to your team, I'm sure the fact that there isn't a lot of discussion is just evidence of your good work and having engaged us all along. So that's much appreciated. And
Thank you.
seeing no discussion, I'll ask Michelle to please call the roll on the motion.
Yes, Chair Lilligren. Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Lucet,
Aye.
Bento,
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. That motion is adopted. And with that, we have dispensed of the business portion of our agenda, and we'll move on to the information item. Our sole information item today is the 2022 system statements. I'm sorry, 2022 system statement issuance. And this conversation will be led by Angela Torres. Welcome, Ms. Torres.
Good afternoon, Chair Lilligren and committee members. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. It's good to be in front of you again. Just for the audience, I'll introduce myself again. I'm Angela Torres, Manager of Local Planning Assistance. At the end of this month, Council staff plan to issue system statements to local governments as part of our regular work to implement the Metropolitan Land Planning Act. I have a brief presentation for you today where I'll talk about the role of system statements in the regional planning cycle, give an overview of the content and purpose of system statements, and share the relationship to the Council's planning documents. So with that, I'll get started. Next slide, please. Thank you. This graphic represents the decennial planning cycle. If we start at the last issuance of system statements in 2015, that was part of the decennial planning process, you can see that it is system statements that prompt the update of local comprehensive plans. You're well aware that the Council has been busy authorizing those plans since they were due to us in 2018. Most communities are in the implementation phase of the regional planning process right now. Implementation of both the regional and local plans may include amendments to local comp plans or to the regional system plans. And so we'll talk more about that on the next slide. The Regional Development Guide, which is currently Thrive MSP 2040, will soon be updated to the 2050 plan, includes system and policy plans for transportation, including highways, transit, and airports, wastewater services, regional parks and open space, and housing. You've already heard a great deal about the Regional Development Guide work, and that will continue to be the focus of the work going forward until the new 2050 plan is adopted by the Council. Next slide, please. Thank you. System statements identify for each community the changes that have been made to system plans and identify what the impact of those changes are to each local government. The decennial system statements included not only system and policy plan updates, but notified local governments of forecasted growth and general development expectations. In the mid-cycle system statements, like what I'm talking about today, this isn't always necessary. In the 2022 system statements, for example, there were no large-scale changes to either the transportation policy plan or the regional parks policy plan that related to forecasted growth. So that's not included in the mid-cycle system statements. Comprehensive plan amendments, though, are regularly where forecasted growth is updated. Next slide, please. The decennial system statements are in light blue on the left side of the screen. The mid-cycle 2022 system statements are in the darker blue and greens to the right of the screen. I'm showing both so that you can get a snapshot of the information that is shared during the decennial updates to the Regional Development Guide and its accompanying system and policy plans in comparison to the mid-cycle statements, which is much more targeted to just the transportation policy plan and the regional parks policy plan. Obviously, the decennial system statements are much more comprehensive when the council updates all of its regional system and policy plans, as well as community designations, regional forecasts, and affordable housing need. Water resources system plans are also included in the decennial system statements. So right now, both the transportation and parks system plans will be included in the mid-cycle statements. They have mid-cycle planning requirements, so it's common for both of these system plans to have updates. When the council authorizes system plan amendments, like what we saw in 2020 with the regional parks policy plan amendments for system additions, we come to a point mid-cycle where we need to issue system statements to local governments again. So each system section of the system statement includes lots of systems and S's in that sentence, sorry, includes key changes to the regional plan, system plan considerations that affect the individual community, and a section called other plan considerations if they apply. That usually, well, with the TPP, for example, that includes the regional bicycle transportation network and the freight system updates. Next slide, please. While the system statement is the official trigger that marks the beginning of the local comprehensive planning update process, it's not meant to stand alone. So system statements are one of three major components that direct and guide communities as they update their plans. The Regional Development Guide includes the Council's Metropolitan System and Policy Plans, contains the regional infrastructure plans, as well as specific policies and strategies guiding the growth and development of the region. The system statement is a distillation of the key changes in infrastructure plans in the Council's Metropolitan System plans, and the Local Planning Handbook is a guide that explains what specific information is required in local plans in order for the Council to fully evaluate the plan's conformance to system plans, consistency with Council policy, and compatibility with the plans of adjacent and affected jurisdictions. Next slide, please. If a community has questions or disagrees with an item in the system statement, communities first reach out to, sorry, Greg, can you click ahead? Yep, there you go. Just show the whole thing. Thank you. I didn't realize the animations were on there. Thanks. So if a community has questions or disagrees with an item in the system statement, communities first reach out to their sector representatives. This is where most of the questions about system statements are handled. Sector reps work very hard with local government partners to provide answers, to provide clarity, discuss options, or resolve any issues if needed. The community can request a hearing within 60 days if a resolution is not able to be reached. They can request that the Council's Land Use Advisory Committee or the Office of Administrative Hearings hold a hearing in which either LUAC or the Office of Administrative Hearings will make a report with findings and recommendations to the Metropolitan Council. The Council ultimately makes the final determination based on the report. If a community doesn't object within 60 days, the statement is considered final, and communities move forward with any needed amendments to their comp plans. They follow the typical comp plan amendment process and submit those to the council for review. In the last decennial planning cycle, there were 6 requests for a hearing, with only 1 request moving forward to a hearing. Other requests were resolved through discussions between the communities and council staff. With mid-cycle system statements, there are usually even fewer disputes than the decennial system statements. Mid-cycle changes usually don't have a significant impact on local plans and usually do not impact as many communities either. With that, that concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Torres, and to your team. Thanks for their presentation. Questions on that report? Any questions? Yeah, Councilmember Lindstrom.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. What's a typical conflict that you saw last time with these 6 communities?
Sure. Thank you,
Are they all
Councilmember.
6 different things, or did they all kind of revolve around 1 or 2 things? Thanks.
Chair and committee members, if I may, yeah. Usually the decennial system statement questions are around community designation changes or forecasts. That's where the bulk of those changes or questions live. In some instances, the community may have larger issues or questions with regard to regional system plans. The one community that went forward to a hearing in the last in 2015 was the city of Oak Grove, which had concerns about providing the provision of regional wastewater services to the community.
Thank you. Councilmember Lindstrom? Okay, cool. Committee members, other questions for Ms. Torres? Any questions? All right, seeing none, thanks, Ms. Torres, for your report and to your team for your work on this, and we look forward to ongoing conversations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Director Barajas or Michelle, anything else for the committee today?
I don't have anything else. I think we're on a theme of short and sweet.
I like it. Seeing no further business before this committee, we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good week.
Enjoy the sunlight.
care.
Right.